We move on next to the 2017 General Plan Amendment referral request. Mr. Vaca?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Kildee needs to make an announcement.
Due to the fact that I do lease property from the property owner with this request, under council's order, I'm going to have to recuse myself from the discussion and the vote.
So on this one, you have to leave, right?
I have to leave, yeah.
Okay.
Financial
Because he does have a financial,
conflict of interest.
As well.
I guess he could raise your rent or whatever, yeah.
Kick him out.
Right with that.
Okay, now Mr. Vaca.
Yes, thank you, Mayor McDonald and members of the City Council. This item was originally heard by the Council on January 25th. It was the first of the General Plan Amendment referral requests that you considered, and you continued it to a date uncertain for the applicant to have additional time to do some additional public outreach, including meeting with the Pleasant Valley Recs and Parks District. So this is a request of Young and Company for a project that would include a sports center complex. And in order to proceed with the project, they would first need to amend the general plan land use element. The current designation is agriculture, and they have updated their request to change it to industrial for approximately 38 acres. The property is located at the northeast corner of Pleasant Valley Road and Las Posas, and it's just north of the city's boundary. The surrounding land uses include the Camarillo Airport to the west, and there's commercial and agriculture to the north, and there's agriculture to the east and to the south, with the county of Ventura bordering the site along the southern boundary. And the site is currently being used as a citrus orchard. The concept, as I indicated, is for a sports complex facility that's primarily intended to serve for basketball, volleyball, and indoor soccer tournaments. It has a design that would include 2 air dome structures that each would be approximately 108,000 square feet in size and up to 80 feet in height. And
How many? 80 feet?
Yes. And they're proposed to be located near the central eastern portion of the existing 37.7 acre site. And while the design isn't set in stone at this time, it's important to point out that that's the architectural style that they're proposing because that's integral to their concept. The initial design concept does include 40-foot tall facade walls along the perimeter of the air dome buildings to provide a little bit more traditional architectural elements as viewed from more pedestrian scale. The 2 air dome structures would be connected by an approximate 110,000 square foot facility that would consist of 3 stories, and it would serve as a central building used for access, team meeting space, offices, conference rooms. That provides viewing mezzanines, and it would also have a roof deck. The development concept also includes the provision of 2,500 parking spaces and parking fields surrounding the buildings. And the applicant has updated their concept, and they have removed what had originally included a 70,000 square foot ancillary commercial building out on the corner of Pleasant Valley Road and Las Posas Road. So that's no longer part of the development proposal at this time, so the site would be purely industrial. And in addition to the general plan amendment, if the proposed referral was allowed to proceed for further study, the application would also necessitate a zone change, and we would anticipate that the zoning would be limited manufacturing, which would allow the use as proposed with an industrial plan development permit and a conditional use permit application for a sports complex. And obviously, we would also require that the project comply with CEQA requirements and environmental review analysis, which would analyze traffic and any other potential impacts. This demonstrates the preliminary concept site plan. It shows the 2 air dome structures, somewhat centrally located in the site, with the building that connects the 2, and then surrounded by parking. And this is the location where they did propose 70,000 square feet of ancillary commercial, which is no longer part of the project. This map demonstrates the existing general plan land use designation of agriculture for the site. And the site is currently zoned agricultural exclusive. So the action for consideration by the council is to determine whether or not to refer the request. And then we would have an opportunity also before we make a final decision to listen to the applicant and also listen to any public comments. And then ultimately the council will either approve or deny the referral, or could potentially continue discussion as well. And if necessary, the council always has the ability to refer the project with more specific direction to staff based on any potential concerns or items that are presented this evening. So that concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant does have a PowerPoint slideshow that they'd like to present as well.
Okay, I don't have speaker sheets, but if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and start.
Do we get questions first? Or
Of staff, or you want his presentation, then do questions?
I'll wait after he's through, then we'll ask
Yeah,
staff.
and then we'll do. Yes, go ahead.
I think Jeffrey's handing out some copies of the PowerPoint. Perfect. I get a helper too? This is great. Can I come back tomorrow? No. First, I'd like to thank you on behalf of our team for allowing us to come back. Oh. I lost my helper. We do appreciate your input, your feedback through the last meeting. It seems like quite a different crowd tonight. It was interesting at the last one, so I feel like rocks are being thrown at me this time, which is kind of nice. And once again, thank you to staff. You guys have been great through the process so far. We appreciate the input that you've had. We hope to work well with you in the future. So I'd like to thank you in regards to that. But Madam Mayor, council members, just a couple quick bullet points I'm going to go over in our presentation. Mr. Vaca's covered kind of the quick overview again, but we know we had questions that arise at the last meeting, and we just want to make sure we answer those for you and that we can kind of continue through the process in that regards. And of course, we're open to answering any questions after if you have them for us or the rest of the team. So the vision and the need, this is a big passion project for us. And the main focus for the Pacific Coast Sports Center is to actually provide court space for practices, open gym, large tournaments, recreation for club teams, local high schools, middle schools, and other local sports organizations. The main focus of our project is actually related to indoor sports like basketball, futsal, volleyball, but we've also realized that basically any indoor sport can utilize our facility. So we don't want to say that we're limited to 3 sports, but they're the main driving force of our business plan. I just want to kind of quickly touch on what a club team is, since club tournaments is kind of our main focus. So a club team is actually an elite team formed by organizations to play at a high-level tournament around the country. And these tournaments provide exposure for the student athletes to college coaches and recruiters. Currently, local club teams have to travel down to Orange County as probably the local, it's not locals, that's a hard word to use, but their closest facility for a tournament space that could house something that they are a part of. And the teams and the demand that was brought up at the last meeting, we put together just some quick numbers in regards to the 3 main sports that we focus on. And this will encompass the city of Camarillo, the county of Ventura, and then tri-county areas. So that'd be San Luis Obispo County, Santa Barbara County, and Ventura County. Now, in regards to volleyball, there's approximately 130 club-level teams. And the ages for their athletes range from 9 to 18 years old. Futsal, which is indoor soccer, so soccer played on a gymnasium type of flooring, 300-plus teams. And their athletes do start at the age of 4 years old and go up to 18. Basketball in the Tri-County area, 175-plus teams, and ages ranging from 5 to 18 years old. And I do want to emphasize this is just in regards to club-level teams. So this isn't touching on local community organizations like Camarillo Youth Basketball Association, local park and rec types of leagues and things like that. This is just in regards to separate club-level teams that would be using a facility like ours. And once again, big factor is that these teams now drive all the way down to like Orange County for their closest venue of something like this. Now, questions that were brought up for the dome characteristics, I do want to kind of emphasize all our plans are preliminary right now, and we look forward to working with city staff in regards to them. So I'm going to answer, but obviously we know things may change as we're still in the process of getting approved. So the dome height, as Mr. Vaca brought up, standard engineering so far says 80 feet of total height. Now, that is actually 60 feet of our dome structure on top of a 20-foot wall, so a supporting wall. And then in meeting with city staff, we've decided to go ahead and put a 40-foot high screen facade wall around to kind of hide, I don't want to say hide our dome because I think it's going to be beautiful, but to kind of fit in with the city guidelines that we have currently. And the apparent height is actually minimized by its shape. So if you would actually look at a dome curved structure at 80 feet at its center point versus 80 feet of a straight wall, we actually don't have that same visual impact that an 80-foot wall would have. So we actually, on our preliminary plans, have a height visual study on the bottom page, bottom of the last page, and that kind of shows you that our actual impact is less than an 80-foot wall. So it's something to kind of consider as well. The dome light and color, we would be using an off-white material, and that is for several different reasons. One of which is exterior light can actually penetrate through and help light up during the daylight time, and that kind of minimizes some energy usage and costs in our regards. And then light we'd have on inside the building would actually kind of permeate through that and bounce back, providing white light back. If we did a blue, a green, hot pink, fuchsia, something like that, it would actually glow that color inside. So you wouldn't want, an off color to be glowing inside of our facility. Now, talking about glowing, we are not going to be glowing. I know that's a big concern from council members. We actually have had a study done by Illumination. It's an engineering company out of Ontario, Canada, and it does show that less than 0.1% of the light inside our facility would actually penetrate outside of our facility. So I want to emphasize that again, less than 0.1%. It's actually not a typo. So we're not going to be a big glowing dome structure in the city of Camarillo. It was brought up submerging the floor 5 to 6 feet. Simple answer is it's not viable. Normal water tables are usually around the 8-foot to 10-foot level at that specific project site, and hydrology reports have kind of concurred with that for us. And currently, with the rain we've had, it could be potentially as shallow as 5 to 7 feet. So once again, submerging 5 to 6 feet just simply is not possible for us. Lowering the height of the dome. Once again, preliminary stages, and we will definitely work with city staff in regards to that. We have reached out to our dome manufacturing company and brought this up, and they're dealing with their own in-house engineering department to see, as low as we could possibly go based on the size that we are. So that is something that we are definitely working on, and we'll work with city staff. Traffic mitigation. It's been brought up a couple different times. We plan to schedule our events and stagger them at off-peak periods of the day. That not only is good for the community, but that's also really good for us because we don't want folks coming to our facility to be sitting in traffic either. They'd come in unhappy. And so we want them to leave on a good note, and we want them to enter on a good note. So we don't plan on having them angry upon arrival. Also on our preliminary plans, we do have designed traffic throats and aisles on site, and that could actually accommodate up to 260 vehicles and pull them off of the street and onto property for queuing and parking purposes if they're all arriving around the same time for an event. So we have already started working on trying to mitigate them off of the street and onto property. Also, we do know some traffic signalization and street improvements will most likely need to be done. Once again, we'd love to work with city staff through that process. Community outreach. Like I said, this project's more than just, we are real estate developers, Young and Company, and I think that kind of serves a little negative tone that we're going to build a home and leave, but this is something we plan to be a part of for many years to come. So we want to be a vital part of the community in Camarillo, and we want to make sure that our neighbors want to be neighbors with us because we want to be neighbors with them. So we have done quite a few meetings, and we've kind of reached out to quite a few different organizations. I want to touch on just a few. I won't go through all of them. Camarillo Chamber of Commerce, I was able to present at their last board meeting. Got some great comments from them, some good community members inside that board meeting. And I do feel it went pretty well. I think we actually had a letter sent to council. I hope you received that. I got a copy of it, so I'm glad you did as well. So they're in support of us. And once again, they had some really good input for us as a potential business here in the city. Okay. So I was really glad to be a part of that. Ventura County Lodging Association, I think I have a real lovely speaker from them this evening. So she'll touch on a lot of the sports tourism that she gets requests for and doesn't get to accommodate in this area. So she'll speak on behalf of her own organization. Rebecca, thank you. Amateur Athletic Union, that's a nationwide organization that houses thousands, and I literally cannot emphasize that enough, thousands of athletes in sports. Now, they do indoor and outdoor, and we are indoor, but they literally would be able to potentially have thousands of athletes use a facility on the West Coast that they currently do not have. So we've been in talks with them in regards to that as well. Cal State University Channel Islands, we've had several meetings with them. Once again, they kind of opened our eyes to much more than we ever thought we would be able to provide them, which has been pretty interesting. They cannot speak on behalf of a private developer, which I totally understand, but they did mention a few things, and one I wanted to highlight is a facility like ours being that close to the university would allow them to crack into NCAA Division II sports, which they currently are not involved in. So they do not have a facility at their university that allows them to be a part of that, but they would potentially be able to use a facility if it was close enough to have that ability. Red Cross, it was pretty interesting that they were here, but we know that we could potentially be an emergency evacuation site pending the horrible natural disaster potentials that might happen, which we don't hope happen, but we're there if we need to. And as Mr. Vaca brought up, we have met with Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks Department. We'd met with their director a couple times. We had not met with their board before the last meeting. We have been able to go to one of their board meetings, this last one, and once again, some strong feedback from them, some good insight. I think something that they thought before we were able to present to their whole board is that we're looking to compete with them, and I'm pretty sure we were able to kind of let them know that is not our goal. We are not developing our own youth leagues. That's something that they do, and we are glad that they do it, and there's a need for it, but we do know that we can support them. And so I think they were able to realize that in our last meeting with them, that we would be able to support, but we would not conflict with something that is already operating here in the city. So where they might lack on court space, we would have that for them. Also, Boys and Girls Club, Camarillo YMCA, and then several local club organizations and representatives in regards to volleyball, basketball, indoor soccer, cheerleading, and the list kind of goes on that, but I will not take up too much more of your time.
Okay.
That's it. Any questions for me?
Thank you very much. Do we have questions for him or from staff?
I got some questions for him.
Okay, Mr. Morgan.
I see the 1% light transmitting. Of course, I'm concerned about any kind of transmitting. If you look at when clouds are low and see the tomato farms out there, you'll see it like it's a bomb went off. And everybody here in camera goes, what happened? When clouds are gone, it's not as, you don't see it hardly. Now, in this one, the light you say is white, but when you have low clouds, like we've been having fog lately, how does that radiate through the fog?
Well, I think we're a little confused on this. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. We do not create white light. Our fabric that we use is white.
Well, it's anything that's got white sticking out from it is going to create something.
Okay, I thought you were talking about light. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Well, that is light because it's going to go through that plastic, that cover.
Less than 0.1% of the light would actually permeate through our material. So really, we would not be generating any light out of our facility.
Okay.
So less than 0.1%.
You promise. Okay. So if it's not lit, the
Someone
sky's
that
not lit up at
someone
nighttime.
way smarter than me promises, actually. So that's
Okay.
what the study was.
Well, if it
done.
does come back, we can come back and say, can you cover it with dark? Anyway, because you said it wasn't going to illuminate. I want to make sure my own people here don't get angry at us for letting one of those things
I
happen.
actually had a funny comment because the company that does that is called Illumination, and I said, but we don't want to illuminate. And they said, well, that's just our name, sir. I'm sorry. So, no, we are not going to glow white. I promise you that.
Okay. Conditions. If this didn't work, let's say it didn't work, things fell apart, but we've zoned it industrial. Can we put conditions on it just like we did over on Springville? That if it doesn't work, it can go back to its original zoning?
If we work with the applicant and they agree to that, and we put together an agreement, we probably can.
Yes, because otherwise they can come in and build a lot of industrial if this doesn't work. If we
That's
don't have
going to take some conversation with the city attorney's department. It's not as seamless and easy as you might be thinking.
I'd like to know about it because I don't want it to turn into industrial if this disappears.
Well, we can certainly take a look at the legality of that and get back to you.
Thank you. Limitation on events beginning. We asked this last time because Monday through Friday is like packed. That roadway, if you go out and look, you'll see how long it is clear down the railroad track. Is there some way you can limit those kind of hours of starting events during the week, not weekend? Because weekend is not as much traffic at all.
Yeah, like I stated, I mean, we really don't want people coming to our venue to come through traffic either. So, I mean, they're just.
But it's not your traffic I'm worried about. I'm worried what's already there. And
Okay, I understand that, yeah. And we know there is an issue potentially at that intersection, and we know we'll work with city staff in that. So we definitely know there's some traffic mitigation issues that will probably arise, and I don't look forward to handling them, but I definitely will.
yeah, lastly, at this point, because you answered mine about there's not going to be a commercial center there, just industrial. So I answered one question from last time. Positive or negative comments from Park and Rec Board. What did you feel? Did they give you any comments at all that we could pass on here, or just?
I think the biggest thing is, we had met with the director, Ms. Otten, but to hear it from our mouths ourselves, I think was a lot better. And then to be able to actually go back and forth and have the questions brought to us. Their biggest concern was literally they thought we were going to come in and be a new facility and create leagues, and then their local youth that is in their community
Right.
leagues would go to the new league because it's a new facility.
You would hurt them.
Yes, and that is not our goal. We do not want to create leagues.
Did you convince them?
Did I convince them of that? I don't. It's the truth, so I hope so. I mean, yeah, I
That didn't tell
I
me
don't-
either way.
I don't think any of them are here to oppose us this evening, so I think that's
Just for clarification, because we have spoken with the director, the board did not take a position. They were neutral on it, and so they neither opposed nor approved or
Okay, that's what I need to know.
supported the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Chimbley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. Bowman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if I'm understanding it correctly, the primary focus of the facility, based on the application and based on the PowerPoint slide, is drawing club sports teams in volleyball, basketball, and futsal for traveling weekend tournaments, right?
Correct. And also, in off-school periods, there may be a week-long tournament, things like that, sometimes over holiday times.
Okay, all right. I was lucky enough to watch on television the presentation that you made to the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District Board on March 1. In fact, I took 10 pages of notes and wrote it as fast as I possibly could.
It wasn't a short meeting.
Well, and I went back a few days ago and tried to read my writing, and that was quite a challenge. That was fun. But during that meeting, a couple of things were said that struck me, and one is that I think it was Mr. Harris, your colleague, Mr. Harris, said there was no facility like this in the Ventura County region in magnitude or size. You indicated that there was nothing on this scale, and I took that to mean project scale, in Ventura County, and those are two comments that I took away with me that you stated at that meeting. And I remember during the January 25 council meeting when you were here last time that people from San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura County coastal region so tri-counties have to travel to Anaheim for large-scale tournaments. And that thought has stuck with me. Have you heard of the 98,000 square foot facility in Thousand Oaks called the Sports Academy?
Yes, I have, sir.
Okay. Are you aware that one of the express purposes of that facility is exactly the same draw or business plan as your business plan, and that is to draw club sports tournaments on weekends?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit different. I don't think they have nearly the amount of courts that we're going to have. So I think it's correct.
My understanding is they're about 98,000 square feet. I happen to look on the website. It's about 98,000, which is about half the size of what you're, if I'm looking at it correctly, about half the size of what you're proposing here. Am I right, generally
If we're
speaking?
looking just at square footage, yes.
Right. No, but I understand. I mean, when I look on the website and I see court after court after court after court, it's probably designed to make it look bigger than it actually is, but it's still 98,000 square
Yeah,
feet.
they have 4 courts in their facility, so where we could potentially house 32. So they have 98,000 square feet, but it's not all just designed to accommodate court space.
Okay. I will say it looks a lot bigger than that, but that's okay. They also seem to, or at least to me, appear to be drawing the same demographic that your firm would be drawing. Would you say that's a fair statement?
They do focus, I believe, it's hard for me to speak on behalf of another operation, but I feel they do focus a bit more on sports training as opposed to just club tournaments. So
That's
they have a similar
fair.
passion, yes.
That's fair. I mean, you do have a similar passion. They tend to have a little broader scope relative to what they're trying to do, but I wanted to be sure I understood that to me it appeared that the same demographic was being marketed to, and there was a significant amount of square feet available in that facility.
I think potentially it's the same market group, but I don't know if it's the same purpose in the facility.
Well, I only gleaned that from reading the website. So, and I was curious because at the January 25 meeting there was no mention of that facility, and at the March 1 Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District meeting there was no mention of that facility. So I thought I would just ask you about it tonight.
And merely because as far as in regards to amount of courts, they don't really compare. So 4 courts to potential 32 is quite a big stretch. And the Anaheim facility does have potential more court space than they would in Thousand Oaks. So,
Oh, okay. I'm struggling on the 4 courts, I want you to know, because it's a 98,000 square foot facility. But I'm going to leave that one alone because I don't want to joust on that. I don't have any other questions, Madam Mayor, for the moment.
She's got one.
David?
I guess this is for staff, but I'll ask whoever. The 80-foot tall dome, is that okay with the airport?
we've met with the airport, and it is okay with them. So I believe in the last meeting, Todd was actually here and spoke on behalf of the airport in regards to our project.
I just wanted to reaffirm that.
Absolutely.
And then I just have a comment. My main concern at the last meeting was commercial. And my biggest fear was that if this didn't fly, it would still be zoned commercial, and we could have lots of other stuff there because it already have its commercial general plan, land use designation, and zoning. Now that you're going for industrial, I have no problem with this.
Thank you.
Do you have another one before I do mine? Go ahead.
Just one more, because I was worried about it last time, and I can see what you're talking about, because I'd like to get some of those measures, make sure that's correct about the water table. Even if we shrunk it, right now you're going to be the biggest building in Camarillo at 80 feet. You're going to be the tallest one here.
I like that you said we're going to be, because that sounds positive.
I'm
to me,
sorry.
Mr. Morgan. Thank you.
You would be. How's that? But is there any way, I don't care if it's 5 feet. You know, when you go into, if they do it in Los Angeles, where the good old Kings play, and there's a river right out there, and there's a table. And I remember going down 20 feet, right there at the federal building, 20 feet down, and the river's just right there. There's got to be a decent water table. I'd like to see how you come up with those numbers, because if this can go down further, it'd make it so much easier for me. And like the Kings, you can go down. It's kind of fun going down into the court rather than just stepping across and going up. But going down into the court, if you could, Charlotte, we don't know that yet. I'd like to get the correct numbers. I'm not sure of those, because that's why our staff will have to check. That's why I'm saying this. I'd like to make sure of those figures, because sometimes figures can figure and whatever.
And just so you know, like I said, we are working with the engineering department at the Dome Manufacturing Company, because there may be potential issue to go a foot or two down. Anything we can do to help, we'll try to do. And that's on dome structure, not,
Well,
soil.
I'm talking about going down there too, even if it's 5 feet.
And
You're walking down into it instead of just.
another thing we need to factor in regards to that is we don't own that land, so I need to be respectful of that property owner in regards to what he wants to do. Say, you brought up there may be a potential issue, and I never like to think this way, that we might not succeed And so he needs to have the ability to potentially go back to ag if we're not there. So to get rid of 6 feet of his soil might not be a good option for me to present to him. I don't know if I should even say that here.
Well, that's not exactly our problem right now. I'm worried more about the height. That's all,
No, I understand, sir.
okay? Any way we can get it down some, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Are you finished? I have a couple. Can you tell us what this dome is made out of? And what's its lifespan?
It's called Kevlar. It's a high, it's basically a composite material that is.
You need to come to the mic
Yeah, I
there.
can't
for us,
understand
thank
that.
you.
It's a Tedlar material. It's a high strength fabric material that's mixed with plasticized material. So it's fiber and it's plastic. It's probably about 1/8 of an inch thick, and we're looking at 2 layers of this material, an upper and a lower, so that the light that we were referring to also has an insulation between the 2 domes. So there's 2 layers of this material.
And what's its lifespan?
It's looked at as being about 20 years, but because we're going with a higher grade material, it's a Tedlar. It's sort of like a Teflon type material, and that helps the environmental impacts of stuff in the atmosphere from degrading the material. So we're expecting probably 30 years, possibly longer.
Okay. And does it change color with time? Does it always stay bright white? Does it?
It's supposed to retain and not fade. It's supposed to retain the whiteness,
Okay.
the off-whiteness that we're working with, yeah.
But dust settles. Dust.
Does it get dusty? That's true. How do you clean it?
Everything gets dusty.
That's a good point. The Tedlar itself, like I mentioned, is almost like a Teflon. And the whole purpose of that coating is so that fabric doesn't get absorbing any of the materials from the environment. It literally kind of washes or falls right off.
So it's smooth. Okay. Thank you. Let's see, what else do I have? You talk about the number of teams and you talk about the potential players. Can you give us numbers on actual Camarillo residents and how many participate right at the moment?
I'll let Sasha come up because she has notes in her book for you. So, and she's the local Camarillo gal.
Okay. Thank you. And I probably have a speaker sheet for you, do I?
Oh, no, I didn't fill
Oh, you didn't fill it out? Okay. That's fine. Go ahead.
So here in Camarillo, we have basketball. If you want to hit on our 3 main sports, basketball, volleyball, and futsal, we have a total of 6 organizations that have many different teams within that organization. So like we said on the PowerPoint, this could range from ages 4 to 18. And then for futsal, which is indoor soccer, we have over 7, and for volleyball, we have 10.
So add that up and tell me how many people or that
How many people?
What's
If
that equate to?
If we had to guesstimate over 250 kids, maybe more.
Okay.
And that's just in 3 sports.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
My other question is, you talked about being happy to work with staff to mitigate traffic issues. And then you talked about doing this in off-peak, assuming work hours. Have you ever been to our outlet mall on Thanksgiving weekend?
I've unfortunately spent too much money at the outlet mall, yes.
So are you looking to avoid holidays as well?
That's kind of a hard question to answer because, yes, potentially there would be like a spring break tournament or something of that nature for a specific sport or a turkey classic, things of that.
Yeah.
So that would be something we'd have to address when it comes up.
And when you talk about traffic mitigation, and I am assuming you're talking about the corner of Las Posas and Pleasant Valley, are you prepared to take on the mitigation of traffic on the 101 freeway and Pleasant Valley between Lewis and Las Posas? I mean, this may get to be rather an expensive endeavor. We don't know what's going to come out of the environmental process, but I hope you're going into that with your eyes open that it's not going to be.
Yeah, we know there's going to be potentially some issues, and like I said, I mean, we haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, we're still looking for referral on general plan amendments. So, but we know we're going to have to address some traffic mitigation issues. We have met with VCTC for one meeting so far and just kind of let them know what we are working with. And so they're kind of aware of our project, and I'm sure there's going to be some things that we'll have to address when that comes up. So
I happen to sit on the board of VCTC, and we'd love you to widen the 101 freeway between the LA County line and Santa Barbara.
It'd be hard to get out of anybody.
I'm just
is
teasing
that
you.
getting me a vote?
If you did that, I don't know.
No guarantees.
No guarantees. I can't buy my vote, but that would be interesting. Mr. Trimley.
Madam, I'm struggling, Mr. Bowman, with the PowerPoint that was up here on the demand numbers for volleyball, futsal, and basketball. At the March 1, and I was privileged enough to be able to watch the whole meeting in the comfort of my living room from the TV. The question was posed, how many teams in the region would be able to take advantage of this facility potentially, or utilize this facility? And the numbers that were provided at that meeting are very different than the numbers that are up on the screen. The answer on March 1 was 100 volleyball teams compared to 130 here on the PowerPoint. Futsal, you have 300 plus teams, and it was 35 at the Pleasant Valley meeting on March 1. And for basketball, on this PowerPoint, it's 175 plus, and on March 1 at Pleasant Valley Rec and Park, it was 150. How do I reconcile those numbers?
I think those numbers that you're referring to from the Recreation and Parks Department meeting were not prepared because Sasha didn't know she was going to present and actually came from training at a gym without any notes with her. So she was trying to recall any numbers she could out of her notebook that she did not have. Because we didn't know that question was going to even come up. Like I said, we were there basically to introduce ourselves, let them know what our project was about, and that we're not to compete with them. That was the main purpose of presenting that evening. Then it started getting into some more specifics. Even down to, as you probably recall, what food are you going to have there, which we don't know today because we're still in preliminary stages. So these numbers were based off of her actually getting together with some organizations and putting the numbers together, and that's why they're in the PowerPoint tonight, not just from her trying to recall notes she had in her book.
Right, but you recall that on January 25 in these chambers, we did have a discussion about one of the issues that came up was what is the underlying demand for this facility. So I'm sure, it came as no surprise that the Pleasant Valley Board would pursue the same line of questioning.
No, I totally understand that, but we did not have numbers prepared for them that evening.
Okay.
So
All right.
these are some thought out numbers with, like I said, reaching out to local organizations and actually getting ages and players information in regards to how many club level teams are in the Tri-County area. So,
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one last thing. This is curiosity is killing me. But, they say soccer, they call it football, F-U-T-B-A-L, I think. I've never heard it called futsal.
Football's in different countries because they use their foot for the ball, and we are football as in throwing a ball through the air.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying I've never heard it called futsal.
Indoor soccer, and it's actually on a smaller scale than a normal soccer field, and it's played on court as opposed to grass or turf. So they use an indoor court type shoe. The main focus of futsal, indoor soccer, is actually ball skills and drills, so there's no contact whatsoever allowed in futsal, which is the indoor soccer. So where you might see some, although not necessarily legal, some slide tackling, things like that in outdoor soccer, that's not, you can't even put an elbow on somebody in futsal. So its main focus, and in off-season times for outdoor soccer that we know it, they actually like to train in futsal. I know it's very confusing with the different names, but which is indoor soccer, which is very skills derived.
But you can still bounce off each other, jump up and bounce off each other, I hope.
Player to player?
In futsal, yeah.
That's not allowed.
Yeah,
You're not allowed to physically contact players like they would do in outdoor soccer.
Okay.
And I'm not an expert. This is just the knowledge that I've gained, so I hope I'm not twisting it too far. But I do not play futsal. I can't chew gum and walk at the same time, so I'm pretty sure my ball skills would not be able to be on the court. So.
Okay. I have one more, and then we'll get to our speakers. Have you looked other places? Is there anywhere else that you have come across that has a parcel that you could build this other than on ag land?
We were open to any land we could find, but 40 acres not on ag land in the city's, I think, pretty hard to find. I don't know of any other properties right now, so.
And you've looked in other cities, not just Camarillo?
We have looked in other cities, correct.
And on other cities' ag land? That's fine.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Thank you. And we may have more questions after we finish the speaker sheets, but thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. So we do have a few speakers. I think you've all been in the room, so you've heard the rules of the timing and so forth. Our first speaker is Seth Bowman, and then it will be Rebecca Evans.
I'm back. No.
Oh, that's
that
you.
was me for the
Sorry.
presentation.
Rebecca, I'm sorry. Rebecca Evans, and then Ashley Lavie? L-A-V-E? Oh, that was Seth.
Wait a minute.
There. Oh, yay! I need those. I broke mine yesterday.
No, these are mine. You
Share with me. Good evening, Mayor McDonald and council members. My name is Rebecca Evans, and I'm the Executive Director of Ventura County Lodging Association. I sent this to Jeffrey the other day, and it's actual so many numbers, so I wanted to show you exactly what we're bringing to the table today, but we couldn't. So I brought them tonight to print them out. We are actually made up of 70 hotels within the cities of Camarillo, Oxnard, Port Hueneme, and Ventura. We do all the marketing for this area to bring visitors in and to fill up the hotel rooms. That is our number one goal, is heads and beds. I want to thank you for the opportunity to bring our support back for the Pacific Coast Sports Center and bring it back to you. I'm truly grateful to have this time. As the marketing entity for our region, we literally receive hundreds of requests for locations wanting to bring sports teams of all types that are too large to fit in what we have right now, and they desire indoor locations within Ventura County Coast. That's what's in your packet. As you know, the number one objective of the Ventura County Lodging Association is to fill the hotels. The groups we want to bring in would be welcomed at the over 70 hotels within our region. This pack of information that you have has over 170 teams that I have personally met with face-to-face and talked to, looking for space and support to bring them in this area. We have actually not been able to accommodate 175 of this list that you have in front of you. And this is over the last 3 years. We've brought in groups such as the Striders, which is little tiny 4- and 5-year-olds on small bikes. We've brought Triple Crown Sports. We've brought in BMX, tennis, softball. And in the last 3 weeks, though, I've had 3 calls for space to bring in sports teams that would fit within this Pacific Coast Sports Center, called one is the 3v3 live national teams, which are the soccer tournaments that are made up of professional teams with only 3 on the field at once. Included in the packet, there's also a list of over 30-something RFPs, requests for proposals, that would like to fit into the Pacific Coast Sports Center, such as the boxing conference with a list of 414 athletes. They would spend 7 nights here in Ventura County Coast, or U.S. racquetball, and they have 500 athletes staying 4 to 5 nights. The AAU, which Seth had gone to, those are 12 athletes per team looking for 4 to 6 nights. Adding to these opportunities for economic impact in this area, this would fill up our local hotels, our restaurants, and attractions. Oh my gosh, that's so fast. I apologize. I do want to say something real quick. In Pacific Coast Business Times today, there was the mayor of Santa Barbara said the city's lack of enough revenue is concerning. The lack of state and federal funding, along with the drop in sales tax revenue due to online shopping, has the city worried. There's not enough revenue to meet our infrastructure needs, stated the city administrator. We need a new revenue source. Mayor McDonald, the Pacific Coast Sports Center is a revenue source for the city of Camarillo. It has the potential to be a revenue source for communities within Ventura County, and I ask you for your support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for you. Do you happen to know what the occupancy rate is for our hotels here in Camarillo?
Yes, over all of Ventura County Coast, it's averaging about 79% right now.
And how about in the city of Camarillo? Do you happen to know?
Yes, it's raised. You are
That is
actually way
higher.
up there. I
Yeah.
do have several hoteliers here, and they can actually tell you exactly what their rooms
Yeah.
are running at.
It's higher.
And I guess the reason I'm asking is what I'm understanding is we've got pretty good occupancy already from what you've done. How are you going to handle?
Well, you have 2 new hotels coming in, but you also have other hotels coming in the other cities as well. So you have about 6 hotels coming in within 2 years. So those rooms are going to be needed to be filled as well. And always, as the our general manager from Hampton Inn, she can explain to you why they're always looking to fill their space.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you
Any
so
other
much.
questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ashley, and after Ashley, it's Vanessa Phillips.
Good evening. My name is Ashley. I should probably bring this down. My name is Ashley Lowe, and I'm lucky enough to have the privilege of being born here in Camarillo, and I've lived here all my life. I'm the director of sales at the Hampton Inn here in Camarillo, and I'm also a board member of the California Hotel and Tourism Association. I'm here tonight in great support of this sports complex. And not only would it be a great addition to our community, but it also will increase our TOT, tax on tourism. And this would benefit all the hotels and local businesses hugely in our area. The main advantage of this sports complex is bringing in as much business during our times we struggle. In addition to businesses, this will be very beneficial to our local families who have to travel outside of the area to Anaheim. And we have employees at our hotel that have to do that all the time. We do have the outdoor fields that we receive great business from during our peak months from May to October. But having indoor facilities with different sports during our off-peak times between November and April is much needed in our area. This past January, we actually suffered and lost a lot of business from the outdoor fields having to have their sports tournaments canceled. And that hurt us quite a bit to start off the year. And historically, November to April are extremely slow months for not only our hotel, but all the hotels in the area. And the past few months, like I said, have been a struggle for us. Basketball season happens to run during those months between November and April, so that would be wonderful if we could have that here. And then volleyball also overlaps during those need months that we need. And although we get a lot of business from all the weddings, that's also during May to October, which are the high peak months, and we need more tourism between November and April. And then, like Rebecca had mentioned, we have 2 new hotel products coming into the area, which we're kind of scared about because they're going to have a lot more hotel rooms there, and we're going to lose a little bit to them. So we need something else that's going to be in the area that we can fill our hotels with. That's all.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Just one question. Because at one time, my buddies and I owned a hotel in Mammoth, and we know that the the down season is October. Kids are all back in school. Everybody's back working again. October was the worst month of all. I didn't hear you say that. You said November.
Yes. October is actually a very profitable month for us. We have a lot of weddings because it's a wonderful time of the year to get married here in Camarillo, and there's 33 wedding venues here in Camarillo. So I already have 5 weddings booked for October.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Great, thank you. So we have Vanessa and then Paige Harris.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Phillips. I'm the general manager of the Hampton Inn and Suites here in Camarillo. Currently, we would be the closest hotel property to this potential indoor complex. Of course, prior, you all have approved the 2 new properties that would be competition for our hotel. So I think looking ahead to avoid any issues that could arise from all of this additional inventory that has been approved by the city to now be in the Camarillo market. I think it would make a lot of sense for us to alleviate that concern with, this new business that would come from these sports teams. I am new to the area, so I, had never even heard of Camarillo prior to moving here for work. Had no idea where it was even at. So, also being a parent and a player of a student athlete, I know how important it is to have these facilities available to our local communities. These children do need to develop their skills and talents, and having to travel outside of the area can be a hardship for a lot of families. So I think it's a great benefit to not only our local youth, but then also to families coming into the area that will drive additional revenue. It's going to create jobs and ultimately, benefit our hotels. So we hope that you would consider that, especially since it has been approved to have these additional hotels. I think it would be in the best interest of the community for the consideration to be made to have this complex approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Curiosity, Honor. Now that you're Cameroonian,
Yes, thank you.
where did you come from?
I came from Roseville, California.
Roseville?
Yeah. So north of Sacramento.
Yes.
And again, just one thing I'd like to say, since I have quite a bit, or had quite a bit of time up there, was, I think sports a lot of times brings people into communities that they would never normally visit or, have any exposure to. Camarillo and Ventura County are absolutely beautiful. Probably, one of the most desirable places I've visited, and with my son, traveled to over 40 tournaments throughout the state. Sadly, I'd never been here until a year and a half ago. So I think it would be great exposure for our city to have families come see us and then continue to travel to the area. I think it's definitely a good thing. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So we have Paige Harris next.
Good evening. So my name is Paige Harris, and I am the Community Program Director at the Camarillo Family YMCA. So I'm here coming as an outside organization to talk a little bit about the benefits of having a sports center like this here in Camarillo. The Camarillo YMCA has a number of sports leagues that take place fall, winter, and spring. Two of our largest are two basketball seasons, one that takes place in the fall, games on Fridays, and then our spring basketball, which is currently going on right now, games take place on Saturdays. So right now we have 350 players in our spring basketball league alone.
Wow.
And that's 40 teams a week roughly that are practicing. And the space that we have right now is our current gym facility, which we obviously share since we're the Y with a number of other departments, and other organizations also utilize that. We rent out our facility to those organizations previously. And so it's made it hard for our programs to have any growth because of the lack of space. So we have an after-school childcare site that takes place and is licensed in our gymnasium. So it only allows our outdoor sport court to be utilized for practices. And then working with the school district are the only other areas of basketball courts in Camarillo for us to practice on, which is a struggle of getting court space. So having a facility like this during the week, we have space to utilize on the weekends for games. It's more the practices during the week, Monday through Friday, to get teams, 40 teams, to somehow practice, and with the lights still on in our building open. So, having a facility like this in town would allow us as an organization to grow our program and to have a space to utilize. But in addition, there's so many other programs here in Camarillo and other leagues that are outplaced due to the lack of space for, whether it's basketball. The Eagles utilize a lot of the PV fields. And so other organizations like Monca and different things like that, there's lack of space for those organizations. And that is it.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you. Next, we have Angela Hawkes.
This is a member of the famous Hawkes family with our great basketball player who'll be everything next year.
He's here. Maybe
he's here. Sit up there. There you go.
They've been waiting a while. So good evening, Mayor and City Council members.
I'm here to support the building of the Pacific Coast Sports Center in Camarillo. My name is Angela Hawkes, and I coach the Camarillo Dons senior girls team. I've also coached the CYBA, softball, baseball, volleyball, and soccer here in Camarillo and the youth sports. All three of my children have played and currently play on club and travel teams. My concern as a basketball coach, and that's my biggest concern, is the lack of gym availability here in Camarillo. I've coached since my son was in second grade, and there's always been a lack of gym space for these children. The past couple years while coaching my Dons team, we have practiced out at Freedom Gym. That gym is old and not the ideal place to have practice. It's also very dark and not an enjoyable place to hold practice. There's always scheduling conflicts with the coaches because we are all working parents trying to fit in practice times for our teams. There isn't very many options, and this year my team practiced at the Boys and Girls Clubs Tuesdays and Thursday nights from 8 to 9:30 p.m. That late practice time is not ideal for these young girls. It is very late for kids to be practicing when they need to get home to bed, and by the time they get home, it's 10 o'clock. And so the big complication was with these coaches, there's only so many places to practice and so many times available. Also, while coaching CYBA, the teams would have to share a court, for example, at Las Colinas or other schools around, and the court is split. So one team's on one half and the other team's on the other half. And they'd only get 1 hour per week. If you wanted to practice another day, you have to practice outside at a park. And I know we live in a beautiful community with beautiful parks, but it is nice if parents are working that they have a place to practice at a decent hour. Allowing the Pacific Coast Sports Center to be built in Camarillo would allow our sports programs, club or city teams to have more options for practice times because of the amount of courts that will be in the facility. As a parent of 3 children who love to play basketball and volleyball, and one who is playing and has played club at a high level, the one he had stand-up, the convenience factor of having a facility like this in our community would be amazing. Our family has spent countless hours driving to LA or Orange County to play against high-level competition. My son currently goes once a week to train and play in LA. With the Pacific Coast Sports Center, we could hold high-level tournaments locally. It would attract travel teams from all areas to come here and play. I also feel the opportunity to have open gym for our youth to play sports is a huge benefit. There isn't an indoor facility that has open gyms for kids to go and play during the week or summers besides 24-hour fitness. And young kids can't go there because you have to have a membership. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, having this facility of this magnitude in Camarillo would be a great asset to our community and especially our youth. I did want to mention that I had been to that sports academy in Newbury Park, and my son has played tournaments. My daughter's played there. All 3 of them have been there. And that facility only has 5 courts, and that facility is based on more training. And even though they had a tournament there, was one location. They couldn't house the whole tournament. We had to go to another location another day. This facility that they're trying to get built would be able to accommodate one location for all those teams. So that's kind of the difference that I've seen because I've been there and I've been a part of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Jay Garcia.
Hi, my name is Joy Garcia, and I currently work at Las Colinas Middle School for 17 years. I also coach at Camarillo High School. I've coached at YMCA with my little 4-year-old. And one of the things that we struggle on a daily basis with is practice time. At Camarillo High School, there are currently 5 basketball teams between the boys and the girls, 6 volleyball teams, 2 wrestling programs, the cheerleading program, the band program, and the dance squad that we all have to share the Camarillo High School gym. There's literally a Google Maps that we have to get on to place when we're going to practice, how it's going to work. On average, if I practice in the evening, I have to share the gym with one of the boys' programs and sometimes 2 of the boys' programs, depending on that particular evening. My girls' team has resorted to practicing at 6 a.m. 2 to 3 times a week. Obviously not favored, by the parents or the students, but that's what's feasible at this time. Our travel ball team that's going to be starting next week, we are going to be meeting with the coaches tomorrow to kind of hammer out our schedules. It's going to require us, we talked about this facility bringing the tournaments that we travel to and do everything here in our backyard. Currently, we have 6 tournaments scheduled between now and the end of April. They're in Santa Ana, Rancho Cucamonga, Anaheim, everywhere. We're an hour and a half away for every single one of those tournaments. 2 hours.
If you're really lucky.
2.5 hours.
Thank you.
I was trying to be nice, yes. Well, we usually leave on a Friday evening to try to get out there because sometimes our games are first thing in the morning, and it generally takes us, 3 hours to get there at that time because we leave right after school. A facility like this would change the way Camarillo athletes can do things. They would actually have a life other than, participating in sports. Not that that's a bad thing, but the travel time, the financial cost to parents, the travel of, the expenses of the hotels and staying out every weekend. We leave Friday, we come back Sunday night. We do this, like I said, 6 times throughout the month of April and May. And then we start a whole new season in the summer, which we're then traveling to Phoenix and San Diego and everywhere else because this is where the college coaches are. Camarillo had a phenomenal year this year. We have a lot of kids being recruited and being looked at. And this is where we have to go to give them that opportunity. So if we could bring that opportunity into our own backyard, that would alleviate a lot of stress on the parents from the financial standpoint and the students from like an educational standpoint where they're, having to study on the road and do that type of stuff. So we are largely in support of this, and we hope that we can get this tomorrow.
Thank you. I have a question for you. You talk about not having to travel, but it would seem to me that you wouldn't get to have all your events here. You'd still have to travel because no one else is one to always come here. So maybe 1 out of 5, or it's.
No, I don't necessarily think so because we are headed into the same area. We've chosen different avenues to go and different venues to attend. But there is one venue, like in Anaheim, that we could go, like the Misty May complex out there, that we could go to all of our tournaments at. We just choose to kind of, move things around and switch it up. But if we have college coaches here, we could participate in a lot more tournaments and then maybe venture here or there once or twice. But we would expose those students on a regular basis here and then be able to, travel. I mean, traveling is fun every once in a while. It's very difficult weekend after weekend.
So you're saying that you wouldn't play against teams from other places. You would keep students from the tri-counties within that group.
Generally, when we go to tournaments, there's anywhere from 100 to 150 teams. I believe that they would be coming to this complex. Not many of the complexes that we attend have 32 courts, and there are different venues that we are going to. One tournament is at sometimes different venues because they cannot house the entire thing. So for those teams to come here, I think, would open up a whole different. We also have more coming from the Santa Barbara region, San Luis Obispo. That would definitely change the demographics of who we have coming to tournaments also.
Great. Thank you.
Donna?
Any other questions?
You are a varsity coach?
I'm a JV coach.
Your varsity team had a fantastic year.
They did.
And they got unlucky in that last game. They should have won that one. And you have I hear you have a terrific JV team that had 1 loss?
We had 1 loss.
1 loss. So for next year, you're going to look great. At first, I thought it was the varsity boys and you guys competing who loses the fewest games. But then our hero got hurt, and then they went down a little bit. They still competed, though.
Yeah,
so
they did. It was a great season.
Yeah.
Great. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My last speaker sheet I have is Gary Young.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Gary Young. I'm the volleyball travel dad that came up with this plan years and years ago. Both my daughters played club volleyball, and we did almost all of our tournaments at the ASC in Anaheim. I live in South San Luis Obispo County, so that meant we got everybody in the cars, or if we were lucky enough to get an old motorhome, put everybody in a motorhome and head down to Santa Ana in Anaheim so we could be down there by the 7:15 deadline. We always stopped at Sioux Plantation on our way home. And one day my daughter said, wouldn't it be nice if we could go to Sioux Plantation in the morning? Well, we can't because we go through too early. At the ASC in Anaheim, as a parent, I didn't like the fact that they have 100 parking spots. And one day my daughter left her knee pads in the car, and the car was a quarter mile away. So I couldn't send her to get them because she was 13, so I ran out and got them. They don't have the parking. When you're in the facility, they do not have air conditioning. And when you get about 2,000 sweaty kids in that type of gym environment, you as a parent don't want to stay there too long, but you do because you want to watch your kids when they do play.
Yep.
There are poles that hold up the Anaheim Sports Center because it is a converted facility. They keep a 911 pretty busy and on staff because people are always running into those poles going after balls. You hit the ball, you play it off the ceiling. I saw a vision, and I learned when my daughter went to school in Iowa, they had structured air domes, and these things were 100-foot tall. And I go, wow, what a great facility to play almost any game, including volleyball. And so that kind of brought the thought of we could do this via an air structure, maybe closer to home. I live in San Luis Obispo. The first person that I met in my quest is your now city manager. I believe I met him in February of 2012. I shared with him our vision. He liked it. At the end of that 1-hour meeting, because we had talked about a height restriction, I asked Mr. Norman, am I currently a dead man walking in Camarillo because I'm 100 feet tall, where I was? And I believe Mr. Norman said, Mr. Young, that was very well stated. So we had looked in Camarillo first. That was our first choice, and now we're back. As far as Councilman Tremblay, yes, we are well aware of the Thousand Oaks facility. They have, and thanks to the internet, they have 53,000 square feet of court space. The remaining portions of the warehouse are training. They have sauna, they have yoga, they have offices, they have meeting rooms. They have 5 courts, we have 32. I just want to give you an example of the, from San Luis Obispo. On volleyball club teams, we have Oceans Elite that has 10 teams. SLO Free Juniors has 12. Do I need to stop?
Oh, go ahead and finish up your thought.
Okay. SLO Juniors 13. Paso Robles has 10. Atascadero 6. So from my county that I know about, just volleyball, we have 51 teams that incorporate 663 players. So now, if you're going to send them all to a tournament, and they're going to play, you need at least 25 courts. That's just for those 51 teams. I'll make one more mention on AAU. It has tens of thousands of members. Go on their website. They have 14 million. And if you have, I have other information to answer specific questions if you should ask. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? I have one for you. You're from San Luis Obispo. Did you search between there and here for sites?
We have. Our farthest point we looked north was Ventura, and we actually had a piece of property in Ventura. Unfortunately, it was too close to Edison's power lines to safely have a facility for kids. We did look at a couple sites in Oxnard. They were smaller. We were trying to make them work. They didn't. We managed to come back to Camarillo and find a property owner that conditionally thinks if this is good for the community, it would be good for the property owner.
So there's nothing in San Luis Obispo or Santa Barbara County?
There would be up there, but you don't have the demographics up there on the facility to get the big tournaments, to get the good coaches, to get the scouting, to get the AAU. You need the larger size. The demographics here works for that.
You're a little small in population. You have to come from a long way to get up there, too.
We do.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Do we have questions? I'm going to ask, since I called on you, I got your card. Is there anything you want to say in the INSEF as far as, now that you've heard everything, since you're the applicant?
I should have just started with saying there's people that are so much better and good looking and wonderful and healthy and related to sports that will speak on behalf of the project. So I want to thank them, and once again, thank you all. And if you have questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to us. I know city staff has our info. I could leave cards and ask away, because we're more than open with wanting to answer any of your questions. And I appreciate your time, but I want to be respectful of it as well. So thank you again, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anything from staff?
No.
Done. Any more questions from council? Then how about a discussion?
Well, my objection last time was that it was commercial, and they've changed that to industrial, and I have no problem with this. referring it to, for further study.
Thank you very much. Mr. Morgan?
Your Honor, I had a lot of questions last time. Some of them were answered. A couple of them, I'm waiting to see what staff comes back with, like times of use, during the week and weekends, so we don't cram it during the weekdays. Also, the idea of double checking to make sure if we can go down more on that. I mean, you can do our own checking to see what the water table is. Sometimes I always trust the builders because they stretch it a little bit. It may still be down at 8, 9 feet, and you can go down 5. Well, we need to look at that, and I want to make sure that's not an impossibility. Because taking it down little, I don't like it being the tallest building in the Camarillo and sticking out there by itself. But if we can get it down some, I'd be very happy with that. What was the other thing? We had okay, I guess that's all. Those were my main concerns because you took care of the others. And so I'm willing to forward this too because it'll come back and we'll talk about it again.
Mr. Tremblay.
I have some, if you could bear with me, Madam Mayor, I have a number of thoughts here. This is a unique proposal, and it's a tough call, and I guess I relate to it speaking as a former AYSO soccer referee, so maybe I'll take it without the whistle and the referee's shirt. There exists a significant potential economic benefit for the city in terms of use of hotels and shopping, restaurants, et cetera, that's associated with the proposal if, and I want to underscore if, the customers that are envisioned to use the facility actually materialize. And I really like the fact that this is a private sector endeavor and would hopefully support economic development for our city. And I really appreciate your passion for the project. It's well taken, and I salute it. I've thought a lot about this proposal since the January 25 council meeting. And as I said in my questions to you, Mr. Bowman, earlier, I was fortunate enough to be able to watch on television the March 1 meeting, the lengthy meeting that you had and your representatives had with the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District Board. And in my view, the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District Board those directors and staff are the true experts on community recreation in this area and club sports in our community. And I think you would agree with me that they asked questions. They asked very, very extensive questions and kept you moving during the course of the evening. During that Pleasant Valley Rec and Park District meeting, it was extensively mentioned that there is a need locally in Camarillo in particular for more indoor basketball and volleyball facilities, and I'll stipulate to that. There's no question in my mind about that. That said, the essential question for me is whether the regional demographics exist and the overall need to support this facility really exist. And one of the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District directors really hit the nail on the head in terms of his question, and that is, how does the developer, in this case Pacific Coast Sports Center, know that there's a need to be filled? And the response was, as we've talked about, well, there's no facility for tournament play in this regional area, and that teams from San Luis Obispo, South, Santa Barbara, et cetera, have to travel to Orange County. Well, I'm skeptical that an underlying need sufficient to support the project exists for 3 reasons, and let me walk through them. First of all, I spoke about this somewhat extensively on January 25. There's no analysis on underlying demand. I understand the anecdotal numbers, but there's no analysis on underlying demand. And so I asked myself, well, why not? As a threshold premise, why isn't that there? There was an economic impact study that accompanied the application, and that was good, but it doesn't address that underlying issue. It doesn't satisfactorily address it. It's premised on assumptions of who might come if it were built, but it doesn't address the underlying demand from an economic standpoint. I said on January 25 that if a development goes forward, I don't want a white elephant, no disrespect to white elephants, to exist on the property. So that's the first thing. The second thing is watching the March 1 presentation, and I took 10 pages of notes, which for me is pretty good. I had to write really fast. There was extensive questioning by the PVRPD board members on who the club travel teams are that would use the facility and how many such teams existed. And there were numbers that came out. And I recognize that you were kind of on the fly and you hadn't had time to prepare and you had some numbers up tonight. And I'm still having some difficulty reconciling those numbers. But it's actually more nuanced than that because it gets down to who actually are the travel teams, who actually have to travel for tournaments, when that usage is it during the weekends versus the weekdays, et cetera. And there was a question, for example, that was asked, how many traveling basketball clubs exist in Ventura County? And one of the Recreation and Park District directors, who I consider to be quite an expert on club sports in this area, said he didn't know of any. Now, maybe there are. The local teams, and I certainly understand from a perspective of ACHS and Rio Mesa and the Boys and Girls Club, they play principally in their existing facilities. And I get it, because as a parent with 3 grown children, we always had a unique, challenging, it was a tough, challenging task to schedule practices. What I found of great interest was one of your responses, which is that the anticipated bread and butter demand, that's how you put it, the bread and butter demand for this facility would be highest on the weekends, and you wouldn't contemplate that much use on the weekdays during the school months. And then there was a discussion on school months and how big a window that was, and it was noted by one of the directors that that was actually quite short. And so that led one of the directors at Pleasant Valley to remark that the facility would have to place a lot more emphasis on the business side for trade shows and conferences, et cetera. And I know you have that set forth in your application, and I think legitimately so. The third reason for my skepticism is the Sports Academy facility. And I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it tonight, because tonight's the first time I'm aware that this has ever come up in public. It didn't come up here on January 25, and it didn't come up with Pleasant Valley Rec and Park District meeting. And I won't dispute with you relative to the amount of square feet. It is a significant facility. It's got multiple courts. If it's 4, fine. If it's 5, fine. Maybe it's more than that. It certainly looks more than that when you look on the website, but that's just me taking a look at it. That said, it's a significant size, and it's a material fact in my consideration of the proposal. And I'm not shilling for anybody, but it makes me skeptical that an underlying demand, to the extent it exists, would support this facility. So when we started, I'm the rookie on this dais, and when we first started looking at these general plan amendment referrals, I said the first time out of the box what my criteria were, and it was really criteria provided by the League of Cities, and the bottom line is what's in the best interest of the city, and it's a short-term and a long-term issue. So why am I focusing on demand? I mean, I've already indicated that there are 3 reasons why I'm skeptical. Why am I focusing on it? Because I have to balance that. I have to balance the impacts of the project associated with conversion of 40 acres of prime agricultural land and the related impacts that flow from that, including traffic. And it's right on the boundary of the city. So the way I approach this is that unless there exists a well-demonstrated and high demand for that particular use, and it's demonstrated to my satisfaction, and unless we have the basis to form a solid, defensible opinion that the facility will do well and support the city's economic development, then on balance, I don't think the conversion of 40 acres of prime ag land is worth it, at least in this particular circumstance. It may be in other circumstances, I don't know. Maybe there's another circumstance, I'm not sure. One of the speakers quite articulately spoke this evening about coming to town, being from out of town and moving here, and I appreciate it. One thing I will mention is Camarillo is a huge draw in terms of outdoor soccer and Pleasant Valley Fields, and the tournaments that come to Pleasant Valley Fields run again by the Recreation and Park District. There are all kinds of folks who come to town for that. So I do think there is a lack of local hotel. The Pleasant Valley Rec and Park District board members noted other things, including a lack of local hotel space and restaurant space to accommodate visitors on the weekends, and maybe that's a healthy problem to have, I guess, in terms of the vacancy rate. But it's still a challenge. So I was initially supportive of the referral of this for study, but for the reasons that I've outlined, I can't support the referral.
Okay. Mr. Kildee, no. Sorry. Well, I think you're probably all going to know a few of the things I'm going to talk about, and I agree a lot with what Mr. Trimbley said, so I won't go into a lot of it again, but starting with Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks District, personally, one of the things I think they need is they need a gym of their own. That's something this city has needed for many, many years. You know, my kids, I remember freezing out there in Freedom Park's gym. I can't imagine what it's like now because that many years ago it was bad, so I can only imagine. I haven't heard anybody mention Bonavista's gym, and when I was on the school board, that was one of the reasons that we built a gym. But we still could use more. So from that standpoint, I didn't hear any real talk about how much it would be open to the public and what that cost would be to all of these other organizations. And to, it's obviously a for-profit. You got to make your money. You got to pay the bills. So it's that's good and that's bad. But obviously there would be some expense there. And the fact that the Parks District, Recreation Parks District, didn't come out and support. They stayed neutral, but they didn't support it and say, with the great, this will really help us. Economics, I can certainly understand as a parent of children how many hours I spent in the car with my kids, and I know it's a challenge, and I don't know if we even knew that when we take it on as a parent what we were going to end up with, but that's what we do because we love them and we take care of them. But it is hard, but I'm not sure that I can use the logic, well, if we have it here, we won't have to travel anymore. You're still going to have to travel because you're going to have to go to tournaments in other cities. And if you want to have your, the exposure to the coaches, you're going to have to again go to where they are because they're not all going to come here. I think the biggest thing for me are two things, and one is traffic. I know when we refer these, it's up to the applicant to pay for all the studies and go through the environmental process. But I have never felt comfortable sending something off to be studied when I had such a feeling that it was going to be almost unsurmountable to mitigate an issue. And I don't know how you'd be able to mitigate the traffic issue and have any money left to build this thing. I mean, I purposely drove down Pleasant Valley from Lewis to Las Posas the other day. And if you're coming from LA, your GPS is going to tell you to get off on Pleasant Valley Road, and you're going to get on that little farmland road that to me still is a farm road with no shoulders, 2 lanes, and you're going to put all that traffic going to your facility. I don't know how a study could come back and not say that that has to be widened to 4 lanes between Las Posas and Pleasant Valley, because in all good consciousness, that thing with that much traffic would be, to me, would be dangerous. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not a traffic expert, but having been here for a number of years and traveled that road enough, it's not meant to hold a lot of traffic. And down, let's go to the other side, let's go to the 101 freeway, and you're talking about bringing in all of this, which would be good economically, I suppose. But all we ever hear about is complaints about the 101 freeway and the fact that we don't have a way to solve the issue. We don't have the funds to widen it. I just don't know how this could pass the muster from a traffic standpoint. And then I get down to one of the things I always look at is, do you give up ag land? And do you give up ag land for something that you don't know that it could succeed? And I don't want to end up with that big white elephant dome. And then what do you do with it? And so I totally understand it. The concept's good. But I'm just not sure it's the right site. And I'm not sure doing this from a traffic standpoint, would be the right thing for this community. Traffic on holiday weekends, I mean, obviously the outlet mall generates a lot of revenue for us as well. And anyone who goes there on a holiday weekend knows what that does to the 101 freeway. So I hate to do this, but I just don't know how I could support converting 40 acres of ag land to a project that I'm just not sure with the traffic issue can be a viable project. So for that reason, at this point in time, I also don't think I could support it.
Your Honor.
More comment?
I heard Mrs. Craven first.
Go ahead.
Well, if you have a comment, that's fine. I was going to make a motion.
No, I have a comment, because we're talking about traffic. I think one of the points I made was, let's not do this during traffic hours. And when you get past 6 o'clock on that Pleasant Valley Road, it's gone empty now. Go take a look. I've done it.
Oh.
Then if on weekends, yeah, you're talking about holiday weekends, but normal weekends, that's empty.
The 101 freeway?
I'm talking about, yes, during the middle of the day, it's empty.
The 101 freeway is empty during
It's not empty, but it's not packed, okay? It's not like Friday afternoon. Not at all. Doesn't come close.
Hey, I drive it
And I
every
can
day
drive-
back and forth.
Well, I do too on weekends, and I did it this weekend. It wasn't packed at all.
Well, that's your opinion.
Anyway.
I have mine.
You do. But so on off hours and that, I don't think it'll be a tremendous impact on what we're doing. Roadway itself, they're going to improve that roadway. They have to.
Lewis?
On Lewis, they're going to have turnoffs.
All
Oh, I mean,
the way to Lewis.
no, I'm talking about where the traffic starts impeding up the way. I don't know how far we'd have to go up. That's up to staff to tell us.
You're talking about Las Posas or Pleasant Valley?
I'm talking Pleasant Valley. On Las Posas Road, they're going to have 2 turn-ins. We'll take traffic off that road. And that'll help a lot by feeding into the project real quick. So that will reduce that traffic coming from Oxnard, Hueneme, places like that. I'm not going to defend what's going on. I'm just saying that, to me, is not that big a thing.
Can I ask?
Dollars going down, no.
I thought you were done, I'm sorry.
We're talking about, they can come back and prove, but the reason I'm willing to do this is because I want to see if they can prove some of these things and not just turn them down without seeing some proof. Okay?
You've made your statement. May I ask a question of staff before we go any further? When you do a project like this, can we stipulate in the forever that they cannot operate and have a tournament during peak hours?
That's what I told him. He said yes.
Forever? I don't know that you...
A sports complex in the limited manufacturing zone would need a conditional use permit, and you could place conditions on time, manner, and
Yes.
operation.
That'd be a moving target, wouldn't it? I mean,
Well, you would set conditions of approval, and in the future, if they want to change that, it would have to go through the public hearing review process for a mod
Right.
of the CUP.
But then you got the building there, and so that's a whole different...
Yeah,
By the way-
so you could set conditions, and of course, they're always subject to consideration if there's an application filed.
Right, because once they build it and they're not economically feasible, they're going to come and say, oh, look, we need to operate more hours, and we're going to obviously say yes at that point, because you've got that big white dome building.
so,
Okay. Anything else? A motion?
yes, I'm prepared to make a motion because I think that it's good for us to sit here and debate and debate and debate, but we don't have any statistics
facts.
and we don't have any numbers and we don't have what the models have brought back, and I would like to see what those things say. And I'd like to remind you that you're also looking at something else that's going to create a whole lot more traffic during the peak times and non-peak times than this ever will if you put all of their things together. So I would like to see what the studies come back and say, and I am willing to and will move to refer this for further study
Second.
with no guarantees as to what the
I say the same thing. No guarantees. There's going to be a lot of proof.
next vote will be because we need to see.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Fails.
That is a 2-2 vote, and correct me if I'm wrong, that means,
That's no action.
all righty. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for your trying.